Every year, on the date of the accident, it runs again as a warning to others, plunging into the gap, shrieking like a lost soul. Percy, what are you talking about? The ghost train. Driver saw it last night. Where? Asked Thomas and Toby. He didn't say. Oh, it makes my wheels wobble to think of it. Puh, said Thomas. You're just a silly little engine. I'm not scared. Thomas didn't believe in your ghost, said Percy next morning. His driver laughed. Neither do I. It was only a pretend ghost story. Percy was disappointed. That evening, he came back from the harbor. Percy knew where he was, even in the dark. Crow's Farm Crossing. We shan't be long now. He liked running at night. The rails hummed and the signal light shone green. But a broken cartload of lime lay ahead. Sam the farmer had just gone for help. Percy broke the cart to smithereens. Lime flew everywhere. He puffed quickly to the nearest signal box. Percy's driver explained what had happened. I'll see to it, said the signalman. But you'd better clean Percy, or people will think he's a ghost. Percy chuckled. Do let's pretend I'm a ghost and scare Thomas. That'll teach him to say I'm a silly little engine. Toby promised to help. Thomas was being oiled up for his evening train. Percy's had an accident, cried Toby. Poor engine, said Thomas. Botheration! That means I'll be late. They've cleared the line for you, but there's something worse. Out with it, Toby. I can't wait all evening. I've just seen something, said Toby. It looked like Percy's ghost. It said it was coming here to warn us. Puh, who cares? Don't be frightened, Toby. I'll take care of you. Wailed Percy. No, not by the smoke on my chimney, chim. I'll chuff and I'll puff and I'll break your door in. Oh dear, exclaimed Thomas. It's getting late. Oh, I'd no idea. Oh, I must find Annie and Clarabelle. It was morning when Thomas returned. Where have you been? Asked Toby. Well, said Thomas, I knew you'd be sad about Percy, and I didn't like to intrude. I slept in the freight shed and... Oh, sorry, can't stop. Gotta see a coach about a train. Percy was none the worse for his adventure, and was still enjoying himself enormously. He had heard everything. Well, what do you know about that? Anyone would think, chuckled Toby, that our Thomas had just seen a ghost. Scarves, continued Percy. It was a cold winter's morning on the island of Sodor. The wind was bitter and the ground hard with frost. Thomas and Percy were cold and cross. All I want is a warm boiler, huffed Thomas. Firelighter knows that. He's late. He's not late, replied Percy. This weather woke us up early. Gusts of wind swirled round the shed, tossing flakes of snow toward Thomas. Then they swooshed round Percy, too. Why don't we talk about something else? Shivered Percy. Yes, replied Thomas, like how silly we'll look when our funnels turn into icicles. That's not funny. Maybe we'll stop feeling cold if we talk about warm things. Like sunshine and steam. And firelighters, muttered Thomas. Scarves, continued Percy. Scarves? Laughed Thomas. That's what you need, Percy. A woolly scarf round your funnel. Thomas was only teasing, but Percy thought happily about scarves until the firelighter came. Percy was now working hard. His fire was burning nicely, and he had plenty of steam, but he still thought about scarves. He saw them everywhere he went. My funnel's cold, he puffed. I want a scarf, I want a scarf. Rubbish, Percy, said Henry. Engines don't wear scarves. Engines with proper funnels do, replied Percy. You've only got a small one. Before Henry could answer, Percy puffed away. Henry snorted. He was looking forward to pulling the special train. It was time for the photographs. Everyone was excited. Sir Topham Hatt was waiting on the platform for his trousers. They were in a trunk amongst a big load of baggage. The porters were taking the baggage trolley across the line. They were walking backwards to see that nothing fell off. Percy was still being cheeky. His driver always shut off steam just outside the station. Percy wanted to surprise the coaches by coming in as quietly as he could. But the porters didn't hear him either. Percy gave them such a fright that boxes and bags burst everywhere. Oh, groaned Percy. Sticky streams of jam trickled down Percy's face. A top hat hung on his lamp iron. Worst of all, a pair of trousers coiled lovingly around his funnel. Everyone was very angry. Sir Topham Hatt seized the top hat. Mine, he said. Percy, look at this. Yes, sir, I am, sir. My best trousers, too. Yes, sir, please, sir. We must pay the passengers for their spoiled clothes, and my trousers are ruined. I hope this will teach you not to play tricks with the coaches. Percy went off to the yard. He felt very silly. On the way, he met James. Hello, Percy. So you found a scarf, eh? But legs go in trousers, not funnels. And he puffed away to tell Henry the news. That evening, Thomas and Percy were resting in the shed. Percy's driver had taken away the trousers and given Percy a good rub-down. Firelighters promised to come early tomorrow, said Thomas. Henry arrived. He'd enjoyed taking the visitors around and now felt sorry for Percy, too. Driver says the weather will be warmer tomorrow. You won't need a scarf, Percy. Certainly not, replied Percy. Engines don't need scarves. Engines need warm boilers. Everyone knows that. He was feeling very pleased with himself. It was a beautiful morning on the island of Sodor. Thomas the Tank Engine's blue paint sparkled in the sunshine as he puffed happily along his branch line with Annie and Clarabelle. He was feeling very pleased with himself. Hello, Thomas, whistled Percy. You look splendid. Yes, indeed, boasted Thomas. Blue is the only proper color for an engine. Oh, I don't know. I like my brown paint, said Toby. I've always been green. I wouldn't want to be any other color either, added Percy. Well, anyway, huffed Thomas, blue is the only color for a really useful engine. Everyone knows that. Percy said no more. He just grinned at Toby. Later, Thomas was resting when Percy arrived. A large hopper was loading his freight cars full of coal. Thomas was still being cheeky. Careful, he warned. Watch out with those silly cars. Go on, muttered the cars. And by the way, went on Thomas, those buffers don't look very safe to me. The last load poured down. Help, help, cried Thomas. Get me out. Percy was worried, but he couldn't help laughing. Thomas's smart blue paint was covered in coal dust from smokebox to bunker. Ha ha, chuckled Percy. You don't look really useful now, Thomas. You look really disgraceful. I'm not disgraceful, choked Thomas. You did that on purpose. Get me out. It took so long to clean Thomas that he wasn't in time for his next train. Toby had to take Annie and Clarabelle. Poor Thomas, whispered Annie to Clarabelle. They were most upset. Thomas was grumpy in the shed that night. Toby thought it a great joke, but Percy was cross with Thomas for thinking he had made his paint dirty on purpose. Fancy a really useful blue engine like Thomas becoming a disgrace to Sir Topham Hatt's railway. Next day, Thomas was feeling more cheerful as he watched Percy bring his cars from the junction. The cars were heavy and Percy was tired. Have a drink, said his driver. Then you'll feel better. The water column stood at the end of the siding with the unsafe buffers. Suddenly, Percy found that he couldn't stop. The buffers didn't stop him either. Oh, wailed Percy. Help! The buffers were broken and Percy was wheel deep in coal. It was time for Thomas to leave. He had seen everything. Now Percy has learned his lesson too, he chuckled to himself. That night, the two engines made up their quarrel. I didn't cause your accident on purpose, Thomas, whispered Percy. You do know that, don't you? Of course, replied Thomas, and I'm sorry I teased you. Your green paint looks splendid again, too. In future, we'll both be more careful of coal. The water lapped Percy's wheels. Every summer, the island of Sodor is very busy. Holidaymakers love to sightsee, and when the weather is fine, there is no better place to visit. Some people like to go to the mountains. Others like the valleys. Children love the seaside. One morning, Thomas was puffing along the line that runs by the coast. His two coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, were packed with children going to the beach. Everyone was happy. Percy was taking some freight cars to the harbor. Hello, Thomas. You look cheerful. I wish I could take children today instead of freight cars. They're the Vicar's Sunday School, explained Thomas. I'm busy this evening, but the station master says I can ask you to take the children home. Of course I will, promised Percy. Later, Percy saw Harold. Sorry, Percy. Can't talk. I'm on high alert. Why? Bad weather's due. My help's always needed. Mind how you go, Percy. Huh, huffed Percy. As long as I've got rails to run on, I can go anywhere in any weather anyhow. Goodbye. Be careful, warned Edward. There's a storm coming. A promise is a promise, thought Percy, no matter what the weather. The children had a lovely day, but by tea time, dark clouds loomed ahead. Annie and Clarabelle were glad when Percy arrived. He was just in time. The rain streamed down Percy's boiler. Ugh! He shivered and thought of his nice dry shed. Percy struggled on past coastal villages and into the countryside. The river was rising fast. "I wish I could see! I wish I could see!" complained Percy as he battled against the rain. More trouble lay ahead. Hissed Percy. "The water is sloshing my fire." Percy's driver and fireman had to find some more firewood. "I'll have some of your floorboards, please," said the fireman to the conductor. "I only swept the floor this morning," grumbled the conductor, but he still helped. Soon Percy's fire was burning well. He felt warm and comfortable again. Then he saw Harold. "Oh dear," thought Percy, "Harold's come to laugh at me." Something thudded onto Percy's boiler. "Ow!" exclaimed Percy. "He needn't throw things." "It's a parachute," laughed his driver. "Harold's dropping hot drinks for us." "Thank you, Harold," whistled Percy. "Good to be of service," replied Harold and buzzed away. The water lapped Percy's wheels. Percy was losing steam again, but he plunged bravely on. "I promised," he panted. "I promised." He made one more big effort, and at last, exhausted but triumphant, he brought the train home. "Well done, Percy," cheered Thomas. "You kept your promise, despite everything." Sir Topham had arrived in Harold. First he thanked the men, then Percy. "Harold told me you were a wizard. He said he can beat you at some things, but not at being a submarine. I don't know what you two get up to sometimes, but I do know that you're a really useful engine." "Oh, sir," whispered Percy happily. "Hello," said Percy. "Who are you?" Percy worked hard at the new harbor. The workmen needed stone for their building. Toby helped, but sometimes the loads of stone were too heavy, and Percy had to fetch them for himself. Sometimes he'd see Thomas. "Well done, Percy. Sir Topham Hatt is very pleased with us." An airfield was close by. Percy heard the airplanes zooming overhead all day. The noisiest of all was a helicopter. "Silly thing," said Percy. "Why can't it go and buzz somewhere else?" One day, Percy stopped at the airfield. "Hello," said Percy. "Who are you?" "I'm Harold." "Who are you?" "I'm Percy. What whirly great arms you've got." "They're nice arms," said Harold. "I can hover like a bird. Don't you wish you could hover?" "Certainly not. I like my rails, thank you." "I think railways are slow," said Harold. "They're not much use and quite out of date." He whirled his arms and buzzed away. Percy found Toby at the quarry. "I say, Toby, that Harold, that stuck-up whirlybird thing, says I'm slow and out of date. Just let him wait. I'll show him." He collected his freight cars and started off, still fuming. Soon they heard a familiar buzzing. "Percy," whispered his driver. "There's Harold. He's not far ahead. Let's race him." "Yes, let's." said Percy. Percy pounded along. The cars screamed and swayed. Well, I'll be a ding-dong-dang, said the driver. There was Harold. The race was on. Go it, Percy, he yelled. You're gaining. Percy had never been allowed to run fast before. He was having the time of his life. Hurry, 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 he panted to the cars. We don't want to, they grumbled. It was no use. Percy was bucketing along with flying wheels, and Harold was high and alongside. The fireman shoveled for dear life. Well done, Percy, shouted the driver. We're gaining. We're going ahead. Oh, good boy, good boy. A distant signal warned them that the harbor wharf was near. Beep, beep, beep. Brakes, conductor, please. The driver carefully checked the train's headlong speed. They rolled under the main line and halted on the wharf. Oh dear, groaned Percy. I'm sure we've lost. The fireman scrambled to the cab roof. We've won, he shouted. Harold's still hovering. He's looking for a place to land. Listen, boys, the fireman called. Here's a song for Percy. Said Harold the helicopter to our Percy, you are slow. Your railway is out of date and not much use, you know. But Percy and his stone cars did the trip in record time, and we beat the helicopter on our old branch line. Percy loved it. Oh, thank you, he said. He liked the last line best of all, and was a very happy engine.
Thomas was looking at a board on the quay. Danger! One day Henry wanted to rest, but Percy was talking to some engines. He was telling them about the time he had braved bad weather to help Thomas. It was raining hard. Water swelled under my boiler. I couldn't see where I was going, but I struggled on. Oh, Percy, you are brave. Well, it wasn't anything really. Water's nothing to an engine with determination. Tell us more, Percy. What are you engines doing here? Hissed Henry. This shed is for the Fat Controller's engines. Go away. Silly things, Henry snorted. They're not silly. Percy had been enjoying himself. They are silly, and so are you. Water's nothing to an engine with determination. Huh! Anyway, said cheeky Percy, I'm not afraid of water. I like it. He ran off to the harbour singing. Once an engine attached to a train was afraid of a few drops of rain. No one ever lets me forget the time I wouldn't come out of the tunnel in case the rain spoilt my paint, huffed Henry. Thomas was looking at a board on the quay. Danger! We mustn't go past it, he said. That's orders. Why? Danger means falling down something, said Thomas. I went past danger once and fell down a mine. I can't see a mine, said Percy. He didn't know that the foundations of the quay had sunk. The rails now sloped downward to the sea. Stupid board, said Percy. Percy made a plan. One day he whispered to the trucks, will you give me a bump when we get to the quay? The trucks had never been asked to bump an engine before. They giggled and chatted about it. Driver doesn't know my plan, chuckled Percy. On, laughed the trucks. Percy thought they were helping. I'll pretend to stop at the station, but the trucks will push me past the board. Then I'll make them stop. I can do that whenever I like. Every wise engine knows that you cannot trust trucks. Go on, they yelled, and bumped Percy's driver and fireman off the footplate. Off, said Percy, sliding past the board. Percy was frantic. That's enough. Percy was sunk. You are a very disobedient engine. Percy knew that voice. Please, sir, get me out, sir. I'm truly sorry, sir. No, Percy, we cannot do that till high tide. I hope it will teach you to obey orders. Yes, sir. It was dark when they brought floating cranes to rescue Percy. He was too cold and stiff to move by himself. Next day, he was sent to the works on Henry's goods train. Well, chuckled Henry. Did you like the water? No. I am surprised. You need more determination, Percy. Water's nothing to an engine with determination, you know. Perhaps you will like it better next time. Percy is quite determined that there won't be a next time.
Laughed Percy. Percy works in the yard at the big station. He loves playing jokes, but they can get him into trouble. One morning, he was very cheeky indeed. Beep, beep! Hurry up, Gordon. The train's ready. Gordon thought he was late. Laughed Percy and showed him a train of dirty coal cars. Gordon thought how to get back at Percy for teasing him. Next, it was James's turn. Stay in the shed today, James. Sir Topham Hatt will come and see you. Ah, thought James, Sir Topham Hatt knows I'm a fine engine. He wants me to pull a special train. James's driver and fireman could not make him move. The other engines grumbled dreadfully. They had to do James's work as well as their own. At last, the inspector arrived. Show a wheel, James. You can't stay here all day. Sir Topham Hatt told me to stay here. He sent a message this morning. He did not. How could he? He's away for a week. Oh, said James. Oh, where's Percy? Percy had wisely disappeared. When Sir Topham Hatt came back, he was cross with James and Percy for causing so much trouble. But the very next day, Percy was still being cheeky. I say, you engines, I'm to take some freight cars to Thomas's Junction. Sir Topham Hatt chose me especially. He must know I'm a really useful engine. More likely he wants you out of the way, grunted James. Gordon looked across to James. They were going to play a trick on Percy. James and I were just speaking about signals at the junction. We can't be too careful about signals, but then I needn't say that to a really useful engine like you, Percy. Percy felt flattered. We had spoken of backing signals, put in James. They need extra special care, you know. Would you like me to explain? No, thank you, James, said Percy. I know all about signals. Percy was a little worried. I wonder what backing signals are, he thought. Never mind, I'll manage. He puffed crossly to his freight cars and felt better. He came to a signal. Bother, it's a danger. The signal moved to show line clear. Its arm moved up instead of down. Percy had never seen that sort of signal before. Down means go, and up means stop. So upper still must mean go back. I know, it's one of those backing signals. Come on, Percy, said his driver. Off we go. Stop, you're going the wrong way. But it's a backing signal, Percy protested and told him about Gordon and James. The driver laughed and explained. Oh dear, said Percy. Let's start quickly before they see us. He was too late. Gordon saw everything. That night, the big engines talked about signals. They thought the subject was funny. Percy thought they were being very silly. Your ugly phiz is enough to frighten anyone, said Thomas. In the summer, the work crews cut the long grass along the tracks, raking it into heaps to dry in the sun. At this time of year, Percy stops where they have been cutting. The men load up his empty wagons and he pulls them to the station. Toby then takes them to the hills for the farmers to feed their stock. Whee! Percy gave a ghostly whistle. Don't be frightened, Thomas, he laughed. It's only me. Your ugly phiz is enough to frighten anyone, said Thomas. You're like ugly indeed. I'm green caterpillar with red stripes, continued Thomas firmly. You crawl like one, too. I don't. Who's been late every afternoon this week? It's the hay. I can't help that, said Thomas. Time's time, and Sir Topham Hatt relies on me to keep it. I can't if you crawl in the hay till all hours. Green caterpillar indeed, fumed Percy, as he set off to collect some hay to take to the harbor. Everyone says I'm handsome, or at least nearly everyone. Anyway, my curves are better than Thomas's corners. Thomas says I'm always late, he grumbled. I'm never late, or at least only a few minutes. What's that to Thomas? He can always catch up time further on. All the same, he and his driver decided to start home early. Then came trouble. A crate of treacle was upset all over Percy. Percy was cross. He was still sticky when he puffed away. The wind was blowing fiercely. Look at that, exclaimed the driver. The wind caught the piled hay, tossing it up and over the track. The line climbed here. Take a run at it, Percy, his driver advised. Percy gathered speed, but the hay made the rails slippery, and his wheels wouldn't grip. Time after time, he stalled with spinning wheels and had to wait till the line ahead was cleared before he could start again. Everyone was waiting. Thomas seethed impatiently. 10 minutes late. I warned him. Passengers will complain. And Sir Topham Hatt. Then they all saw Percy. They laughed and shouted. Sorry I'm late, Percy panted. Look what's crawled out of the hay, teased Thomas. What's wrong? Asked Percy. Talk about hairy caterpillars, puffed Thomas. It's worth being late to have seen you. When Percy got home, his driver showed him what he looked like in a mirror. Bust my buffers. No wonder they all laughed. I'm just like a woolly bear. Please clean me before Toby comes. But it was no good. Thomas told Toby all about it. Instead of talking about sensible things like playing ghosts, Thomas and Toby made jokes about woolly bear caterpillars and other creatures which crawl about in hay. They laughed a lot, but Percy thought they were really being very silly indeed. At night, when the other engines are tucked away in their sheds, you can still hear the faraway call of an engine's whistle and the clickety-clack of train wheels turning. This is the sound of the mail train. One train is pulled by Thomas and the other by Percy, as the loads are too heavy for one engine to do the work alone. The mail is loaded into freight cars at the harbors, and the engines pull their trains through the silent stations, delivering their precious loads. On a clear night, a big shiny moon brightens their journey, but often Thomas and Percy can't even see the stars. But whatever the weather, lamps along the track always light their way. One night, Percy was waiting at the junction. The main line train was late. At last, Henry arrived. Sorry, he puffed. The mail boat from the mainland was delayed. Come on, Percy, said his driver. Let's make up for lost time. Percy puffed along as quickly as he could, but the sun was already rising as he finished his work. Never mind, thought Percy. It's nice to be up and about when it's the start of a new day and there's no one else around. Percy was not alone for long. Bother, said Percy. It's that dizzy thing, Harold.
Good morning, whirred Harold. I always said railways were out of date, but you're so slow with the mail. You should give everyone their stamps back.
Percy was too tired to explain. Bird brain, he muttered. Good morning, Percy, called Duck. You're up early this morning? No, you're wrong, sighed Percy. I'm back, tired and late. He rolled into the shed and fell asleep almost before his buffers touched the bar. His driver decided to set off early that evening. Thomas was waiting at the station. Thank goodness I have a chance to speak to you. Driver says that the person in charge of the mail has complained to Sir Topham Hatt about the delay last night. But that wasn't my fault, replied Percy. I know, said Thomas, and so does Sir Topham Hatt. But this mail person wouldn't listen. Tonight we'll just have to be quicker than ever before. The engines were just leaving when they heard a familiar buzzing.
I say, you two, there's news flying about.
Where? Puffed Percy crossly.
All over the place. They're going to scrap the mail train and use me instead. Wings work wonders, you know. Always.
Rubbish, huffed Thomas. That night, everything ran like clockwork. Thomas and Percy steamed through the stations, making good time everywhere they went. At a station, Thomas noticed a man looking cold and worried. He had missed his train home. We can give you a ride, said Thomas's driver, but it will be rather uncomfortable. Thank you, said the man. Anything's better than sitting here. The next afternoon, Percy passed the airfield and saw Harold. Hello, lazy wings. Are you too tired to fly today?
The wind's too strong, grumbled Harold. I've been grounded.
You need rails, laughed Percy. They work wonders, you know. Always. That night, Sir Topham Hatt showed the two engines a letter. It was from the man who missed his train. He thinks you are both splendid, and everyone says that the mail train is the pride of the line. Percy was being rather careless and not paying attention. Henry, James, and Gordon were miserable. They had been shut up for several days for being naughty and longed to be let out again. At last, Sir Topham Hatt arrived. "I hope you are sorry," he said, "and that you understand that every job on the railway is important. We have a new tank engine called Percy, who helps pull coaches, and Thomas and Edward have worked the main line nicely. But I will let you out now if you promise to work hard." "Yes, sir," said the three engines, "we will." "That's good. But please remember that this no shunting nonsense must stop." Sir Topham Hatt then told Percy, Edward, and Thomas that they could go and play on the branch line for a few days. And they ran off happily to find Annie and Clarabelle at the junction. The two coaches were very pleased to see Thomas again. Edward and Percy played with the freight cars. "Stop, stop, stop," screamed the cars as they were pushed into their proper sidings. But the two engines laughed and went on shunting till the cars were tidily arranged. Next, Edward took some empty cars to the quarry. Percy was left alone. He didn't mind that a bit. He liked watching trains and being cheeky to the other engines. "Hurry, hurry, hurry," he would call, and they got very cross. After a great deal of shunting, Percy was waiting for the signalman to set the switch so he could get back to the yard. Percy was being rather careless and not paying attention. Edward had warned Percy, "Be careful on the main line. Whistle to the signalman that you are there." But Percy didn't remember to whistle, and so the busy signalman forgot him. Percy waited and waited. The switch was still against him, so he couldn't move. Then he looked along the main line. "Beep, beep!" He whistled in horror, for rushing straight toward him was Gordon with the express. "Oh!" groaned Gordon. "Get out of my way!" Percy opened his eyes. Gordon had stopped with Percy's buffers just a few inches from his own. But Percy had begun to move. "I won't stay here. I'll run away," he puffed. He went straight through Edward's station and was so frightened that he ran right up Gordon's hill without stopping. After that, he was tired, but he couldn't stop. He had no driver to shut off steam and apply the brakes. "I want to stop! I want to stop!" he puffed. The man in the signal box saw Percy was in trouble, so he kindly set the switch. Percy puffed wearily onto a nice empty siding, ending in a big bank of earth. He was too tired now to care where he went. "I want to stop! I want to stop!" "I have stopped," he puffed thankfully. "Never mind, Percy," said the workmen as they dug him out. "You shall have a drink and some coal, and then you'll feel better." Presently, Gordon arrived. "Well done, Percy. You started so quickly that you stopped a nasty accident." "I'm sorry I was cheeky," said Percy. "You were clever to stop," replied Gordon. Then Gordon helped pull Percy out from the bank. The two engines are now good friends, but Percy is always most careful when he goes out on the main line.
Put upon Put upon, that's what I am. Percy puffed grumpily into the yards. He was feeling put upon and said so. I feel put upon, he complained to Thomas. Thomas was confused. Put upon what? The rails? No, put upon with work. Driver says he is too. Put upon, what a silly saying, replied Thomas. But Annie and Clarabelle liked it, and they sang about it too. Percy's been put upon, put upon, put upon. Percy's been put upon, poor old Percy. Percy is being put upon. I am. He collected metal from the foundry, coal from the yards, flour from the mills, rock from the quarries, and fuel from the depot. Then he delivered it all to the docks. Next, he collected some empty freight cars. "Who's this dirty little engine?" cried the freight cars. "We want Thomas or Duck." Percy ignored them. Put upon, that's what I am. That night, all the engines laughed at him. "We can see what's been put upon you," said Thomas. "Silence," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Percy, you've done a good day's work. Now get a good night's rest." "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." Next morning, he took some freight cars to the coal yards. Then he had to push empty freight cars to the mine shaft. When he arrived, there was trouble. The foreman spoke to his driver. "The freight cars are stuck on the mechanism. All they need is a good push. We'll do it right away." Percy shunted back to where a large canvas barrier was used to protect his line from loose rocks. Percy charged at the line of freight cars too fast and too hard. "Oh no!" gasped Percy. The freight cars broke free, but ran out of control to the mines below. On! Faster, faster!" the silly freight cars yelled. Then there was trouble again. "Get out of here fast! The mine's collapsing!" "We'll just have to make a run for it, Percy," called his driver. "There's going to be an avalanche," wailed Percy. And he was right. Worse still, the track he was on began to crumble. "Oh, help!" wailed Percy. Then he remembered something he had seen earlier. "There's a canvas barrier by the track. That might save us." They were just in time. Percy was right. The canvas did indeed save them, but the miners didn't know that. "The avalanche has buried an engine and its crew," shouted the foreman. "We must help them." When Percy had been rescued, Sir Topham Hatt spoke to his driver and fireman, then to Percy. "Driver told me how brave you were, Percy. As a reward, you will be repainted at the works." "Oh, thank you, sir." When he returned, Percy's coat glistened in the sun. "I'm sorry we teased you, Percy," said Thomas. "You were certainly put upon by that avalanche." "Yes, indeed. But just look at my new coat of paint. Now, I don't mind that being put upon me."
Percy's lucky day. One morning, Percy was at Wellsworth Station. He was doing his favorite job, pulling the mail train. The mail for Wellsworth was being unloaded. But Percy was daydreaming. As Henry whistled from the other platform, Percy mistook a man waving a green handkerchief for the guard waving his flag. And Percy set off too soon.
Stop! You're not unloaded yet!
Percy had to wait while all the letters were recovered.
Oh, Percy, that's bad luck.
That's not bad luck, is it, Ben? Quite right, Bill. That's carelessness.
Oh, now I'm running late.
Percy was hurrying to make up for lost time when he spotted something on the line.
Oh, no! Pumpkins on the line! Oh, what a mess! And my wheels are all gummed up and sticky.
Poor Percy would have to wait until the mess was cleared up. He wasn't having a good day.
Oh, Percy, what happened?
Oh, hero, I've been running into trouble all day.
Don't worry. You're just having an unlucky day.
Percy remembered what Thomas had said to him earlier.
Oh, Percy, that's bad luck. Bad luck, bad luck.
Percy wondered if maybe he was an unlucky engine. At Marin Station, the Fat Controller had some strong words for Bill and Ben.
Your careless work this morning has caused confusion and delay. To make sure no more crates fall off your trucks, one of you is going to have to push from the back.
You can be the back engine, Ben. It was your careless driving that caused the crates to bounce off. What? No way! I'm not going at the back. Okay.
At last, Percy arrived at Ulfstead Castle to deliver the mail. He mentioned his bad luck to Stephen.
Bad luck? You've still got your 4 wheels and a full set of pistons. You should count yourself a very lucky engine.
I know, but today
You know, a lot of engines used to worry about being unlucky. Some would carry a lucky charm to bring them good luck. I still have my lucky horseshoe.
I could do with some good luck today.
I tell you what, why don't I give you my lucky horseshoe?
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much. I'm sure from now on, I'm going to be super lucky.
That's right, Percy. It's bound to make all the difference.
Percy's wheels were still sticky from hitting the pumpkins earlier. This made him jump suddenly as he started out of the station. He didn't notice the horseshoe rattle loose.
Percy! Hey, Percy! Oh, dear.
The next day, Percy was on time when he went to collect and deliver the mail. And he didn't have any accidents. In fact, Percy was having such a lucky day that the Fat Controller entrusted him with a really important special.
Now then, Percy, I would like you to take this gift from me to the Duchess of Boxford.
No problem, sir.
As Percy chugged proudly up to the summer house, he put all his good luck down to his lucky charm. Later that day, things were still going well for Percy, but not so well for Bill and Ben.
This is all your fault, Ben. No, it's your fault, Bill. You were pushing too hard from the back. No, you were pulling too fast from the front.
Percy felt even luckier when he saw Bill and Ben. He wanted to help.
Bill, why don't you try and pull Ben back to safety?
I tried that, Percy, but Ben is too heavy. I'm not heavy. Yes, you are. You weigh tons.
Maybe I can pull Ben back.
Are you sure you can do it?
Oh, yes. I've got a lucky horseshoe.
A lucky horseshoe? Where?
It's right... Ah! It's gone! Oh no! I'm so unlucky. I've even lost my lucky charm. Oh no!
Hey, what about me?
Sorry, Ben. I can't help you now.
It's no good, Ben. I'll have to try again on my own. I can't hang on much longer.
Lucky charm or no lucky charm? Bill and Ben need my help.
So Percy was coupled up to Ben, and he started to pull. Then the Fat Controller arrived, just in time to see little Percy pull Ben to safety.
Hooray!
Phew!
Thanks, Percy. Yes, thanks, Percy.
The Fat Controller was very impressed.
Well done, Percy. Well done. You are a really useful engine.
Thank you, sir. Ah,
Then Percy remembered something.
goodbye.
Now then, you two, who is going to tell me what happened this time?
It was your fault, Bill. You tell him. You're the one who came off the rails. You tell him. You pushed me. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. You did. I didn't.
Percy arrived at the Ulfstead Castle grounds. He had to tell Stephen that he'd lost his lucky horseshoe.
Your horseshoe brought me luck, Stephen. It was a really lucky charm. But then... I'm so sorry. I lost it.
But Percy, it's here. When you left, you dropped it. You never had it with you in the first place.
So, all the good luck I had earlier, delivering the mail and getting the special...
That was your own luck. It happens. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
You know, Stephen, I don't think I believe in lucky charms anymore.
Well, I don't really believe in lucky charms either. I was just trying to cheer you up.
Thank you, Stephen. It worked.
Well, that was lucky then.
Percy realized that he didn't need a lucky charm to do his job. He just had to work hard and believe that he could be a really useful engine.